Hey YouTube land, Tycons here doing another action figure review, and today we're having a look at multiple figures from the same figure line, and these are the Command Squad figures. And again, we're looking at more Joytoy, Warhammer 40,000, Astra Militarum, and we're looking at the 55th Capic Eagles Tempestus Scions Command Squad figures. So there's 5 figures in this particular squad. Unfortunately, most places seem to sell these individually. They don't sell them as one group, so I picked them up individually over the course of a couple of months. So I'm doing a review of them all together. So the figures in question, let's see if I can get a little bit better light on that there. So the figures in question for the Command Squad, because there is 2 squads, there's a Command Squad set, and then there's kind of a regular figure set, or a regular Scion, Tempestus Scion squad set, which I have as well, and we'll do a review of those when I get around to it. But this is the Command Squad. So you have the Vox Operator. He comes in the standard box that they all come in. Now for the accessories, they all come with the same sets of hands, or extra hands. So for this review, I've just taken one set out of the boxes, but the rest of them all have the same hands. So this is the Vox Operator, or the comms link guy. He comes with a unique backpack and a unique head sculpt, and then he comes with a las pistol, and then he comes with a set of extra hands. You have the medic, Command Squad medic, which comes with a unique las pistol, and he also comes with a medic bag. Again, same set of interchangeable hands, and again a unique head sculpt. Now these guys share bodies for the most part, in the sense that there's a good few of them that share the standard arms, legs, with the exceptions of kind of pouches that they add on. But for the most part, the main body of these guys are the same, with a few exceptions, and we'll have a look at those when I go through them. So this is the medics box. Then you have the Grenadier, or Grenadier, whichever way you want to pronounce it. He's one of my favorite ones, although I'm not a big fan of his head sculpt. He's the only one of the set that doesn't have a unmasked head. All of the rest of them in this Command Squad have a beret with a normal face sculpt underneath, whereas this guy's the only exception to the rule. He has kind of a half mask. So the standard Tempestus Scions have a full helmet without the beret, and these guys all have berets to denote that they're the Command Squad. So he comes with a grenade launcher. His backpack is fairly standard affair, and he comes with a knife. He's actually one of the only 2 figures that come with an additional weapon, in the sense of a melee weapon. Technically you could count the medic's las pistol, because it's unique in itself. And then we have the Command Squad banner bearer box. This guy is unique in the sense that all these guys come with a clear plastic base as an accessory, and this is the same base that's been packed in with nearly every new recent release figures. So this isn't really a new thing specific to them, but the banner bearer guy here has a specific base, and the reason for that is, you'll probably see it when I move the box, it's to make it easier for you to display the base, the figure with the base, because he is very top heavy without it. So it is one exception to the rule for the bases. But again, he comes with a kind of a normal unhelmeted head. I think him and Commander are one of my favorite of the sculpts for the unhelmeted guys. But you can see even back here, he has that base. And then for the last guy, we'll just move this over. Here we have the Tempestus Prime, or this commander for the squad. He is interesting enough as well. He comes with a unique body. He's the only one that has this body sculpt. The rest of them share their body sculpts between the other figures and the regular squad. But this guy has a unique one, because he's the kind of, not chapter master, but he's the kind of squad leader guy, or the command colonel or lieutenant, or whatever way you want to call him. Now it is interesting that they show this piece separate on the box, because it is actually a part of the cloak. It does look like a pegged in, but it looks like it's glued in place, so it doesn't come out. It's a servo skull with an incense burner thing on it. He does have this cloak piece, and he is interesting enough that like he does come with all the extra hands. He comes with a bolt pistol. He comes with a standard little dagger, which is the same one that the grenadier has. It would be cool, and I don't know if it's would be model correct, but it would have been cool to see this guy come with some sort of like power sword, at least a scaled power sword for the Imperial Guard. But saying that, even though these guys are Imperial Guard and supposed to be average human height, they do tend to be a lot bigger and bulkier than most 1/18 scale figures. So before we get into the individual figures, I'm just moving back here out of the way. I just want to go through those extra hands that you get with them, because they are the same hands that you get across the board. So most of the time in packaging, you'll get one trigger finger hand attached, either left or right, depending on which figure it is. I think most of them have their right trigger finger hand on them, and then they have the left. It's not the left trigger finger, but it's this left kind of grasping hand is the one that tends to be on them in the box. So you get a corresponding right grasping hand, or kind of a double grip hand would be the best way to describe it. It's not kind of for holding weapons, because there is a grip hand, but it's more of a underslung weapon grasp hand, if that makes any sense. It's most notably used for this guy, for the Grenadier. So his grenade launcher is really cool. I do love the design for the Imperial Guard, or the Astra Militarum grenade launchers. If you have this guy and you have any of the other kind of standard Tempestus Scions, you can actually swap this out with them. I tend to swap this with the plasma gun guy and give the plasma gunner to the actual command squad, and give the grenade launcher to the kind of regular squad. But that's just myself. If you have multiples of these guys and you went out and army built these guys, then you probably have extra weapons to mix and match. But the way this works is you have that kind of outstretched grasp hand that is supposed to hold on to the stabilizer, I would imagine it would be called, for the grenade launcher. And it just looks really good. As I said, I'm not a big fan of this head sculpt with the beret. I prefer the ones with the helmets. They have like a more rounded look to them. And it's not bad or anything. It's just I much prefer the unmasked heads over those for the command squad than this. So actually, as we have them, we'll use them as the base. So all the guys have the same basic sculpt, including the captain or the sergeant leader guy. So they all have the same articulation, and it will vary depending on which figure you're using, because in the case of the captain, if you have his cloak on, that articulation gets very hindered, but you can remove the cloak. So they have these aerials and these spotlight things on their shoulders. It is interesting on the box art. It looks like these were supposed to be articulated, but I think they changed their mind last minute because they don't move on these figures. On some of the figures, they're more pointed up and more angled, or on the box art. So it does look like they may have changed that last minute. These guys have articulation in the sense that you can move the arms around. They do have these shoulder pads that will tend to get in the way. They do give some clearance, but not much. So you can only really get the arms out that much on them, not too much. You got a 90-degree bend on the elbow, maybe just a little above it. And then you have the wrists are on ball pegs. And they do have, there is a hinge on them, and depending on which way you have the hand set up, it'll be where the hinge is set. Now, I do need to stress out a few things. When you are switching out the hands, do heat them up before doing it, because I made a mistake with one of my, the Krieg sergeant guy that I had, and his wrist peg snapped. But when you are popping these guys' hands out, and especially on the command squad, I don't think the other guys have them, because they have, most of the other Scions have black gloved hands, as in they don't have the open glove or with the armor plate. It's the same hand, they're just painted in skin tone, whereas the others are just painted with black paint. these little small blue rings, just be careful of them. They will pop out and pop off. They are designed to pop off. So when you are swapping out the hands, I think they're designed so that it's supposed to complete the look of the armor plate on the wrist or on the hand. I know it's a bit hard to see, but if you look there, it's supposed to kind of look like it's a armor plate that's connected by a ring. That's the way it attaches to the hand. I do love that these guys have like these command or these little computer panels on their arms. Some of them on some of my figures are a little loose and you can rotate them, but for the most part they're kind of jammed in place. But on some of my other figures you can actually move that thing around. I think they are designed to be moved around so that when you have the arms in this kind of two-handed position, you can arm the gauntlet or move the gauntlet bit so it looks like it's covering his wrist and he can see the diagram on it. For the waist is interesting enough. The main waist joint is actually just underneath the armor itself. That's the only armor or the only joint part. He doesn't have a dual joint or anything like that. Head is on a ball joint and they get some great range of movement. You get up, down, left, right, good tilt all around. The backpacks are separate. Now I have noticed on some of mine it has this kind of white paint, or not paint but white kind of dusting on some of them, especially when I got them new. They seem to have that on it. It's kind of similar to that kind of stuff that the Mattel Classics figures has. So if you look at some of them, they have this kind of white dust coating on them for some reason. I think it's something to do with the way they're manufactured in factory. This guy also has the dagger, which is removable. And the interesting thing about the dagger, even though you get the grasp hand, I'm just going to move this out of the way. You do get the kind of grasping hand. It does have this big finger guardy thing on it, so it really fits better in, it really does fit better in the trigger finger hand, because you can get that trigger part into the actual loop where it looks like the trigger finger goes. You can sort of get these hands to hold them, but they're very loose. And then, as I said, you get the grasping hand, and the grasping hand, it's tight, but you can't get the blade the whole way down because of that extra piece on it. So there is that. I think these are designed to work with the trigger finger hands. Just move his grenade launcher out of the way so you can get to see a bit better. So we've gone through his waist articulation. The waist can be a little floppy on these guys, so just be wary of that. They do have the ball joint on the leg. There is a thigh swivel, which is kind of nicely hidden. You also have the legs can really only do splits that much. It's more, I think, just to do with the range of motion on the actual hip more than the kibble around it. They do have double jointed knees, so they get a good range over 90-degree bend. There is a ball joint on the foot with a kind of rocker ankle, and then there is 2 peg holes on either feet. Unlike the Space Marines, these guys don't have the toe articulation, the front toe boot articulation, but other than that, they are quite nicely done. So for the torsos, the only two, actually they all have unique torsos, but they do share the kind of same base sculpting. The most notable parts are this iconography here is changed on each of them. Was it? I know, I think it's one of my regular ones has a bit of bleed on the copper piece. So the backpacks for the standard bearer, grenade launcher, and I believe the medic are all the same backpack, just with different paint deco. So if I just move him backwards, so you can see these are kind of the standard backpack. You can see there's different paint deco on this. This is the one that comes with the commander, so it's more akin to this one. And then the one for the standard bearer is actually looks like this guy's the only one that has this extra metallic on it, but they do vary in paint apps, so it is interesting to note. So for the medic, is that it comes with the las gun. Now, I do find the weapons for these guys tend to be comically large. These are the las guns, or las pistols, sorry, I should say. And I'm going to use the commander's one as an example because it's the easiest one to showcase. So the commander guy comes with a bolt pistol, which is standard standard armament for most Imperial Guard or Astra Militarum leaders. They usually have a bolt pistol or a las pistol and some sort of combat weapon or close combat weapon. This is the one from this guy, which is massive. This is the one from the other Astra Militarum set that they released, which is the Death Core Krieg. If I put this into this guy's hand, it will fit. This looks so much better and so much more natural in scale than this huge chunking great big bolt pistol. This looks more like it's something that should be on a Space Marine. I'm trying to look around if I have a Space Marine handy. Bear with me a moment. You'll have to do. Oop. So, might as well bring in a Space Marine. This thing looks way more in scale to these guys, these guys are supposed to be way bigger and are able to wield bolt pistols or bolters one-handed. If these guys had bolt guns, they'd have to wield them double-handed, whereas Space Marines are intended to be able to use them with one hand. So it is interesting to note. We'll bring him in later on, but it is interesting. I much prefer the smaller scale. Even these guys' las pistols look comically large. So the standard bearer and the comms link guy has the same standard looking las pistol, whereas this guy, the medic, has this unique one which has this almost chainsword-esque attachment to the bottom of it. It is sculpt accurate to how the miniature looks. It just looks very ridiculous to my eyes. He does have one of the coolest head sculpts as well. In fact, as I said, all of them have really cool head sculpts. This guy's kind of a slightly yelling, not grimacing face sculpt. The comms guy has the more yelling one, and then the other two are kind of more neutral. He also comes with a medic bag, which is similar to how the Death Core guy came. The Krieg team were based on the Kill Team miniatures, which is why they had all kind of unique weaponry between them. Some of them had unique weaponry, whereas these guys are kind of based on the more kind of standard Astra Militarum units. But even still, there is some unique stuff between them as well. So I'll just bring that coat for the commander in. He does have this really cool coat. As you can see, there is pegs here, and it does look like this is glued in place, even though it did show it as a separate piece on the box. What's cool about the commander is if you don't want this coat, because it does really hinder his articulation in the sense that it looks unsightly if you have stuff in it. In fact, I'll give him back his actual bolt pistol, just so you can get the whole effect. So don't get me wrong, he looks really cool. It depends on which way you want to display him, but they did think it through, and if you didn't want him with that big coat piece, they actually do give him an actual backpack that you get in the box with him, so you don't have to sacrifice someone else's backpack, and you can have him as a more standard looking Scion kind of commander, which still looks really cool. He has a really nice head sculpt with the kind of full beard. I think he's the only one that has the beard. I thought more of them had it, but it was only this guy. But he is quite nicely done, and he has that unique chest plate piece as well, which has the higher neck guard on it as well, which is quite nice. He does also have a dagger. He's one of the only two guys that do have that dagger piece. Everyone else just has standard kind of canteens and pockets on them as well. So that brings us I'm going to leave his coat off for the rest of the review. It's easier. So Comlin's guy has this big hunking great backpack. This piece is separate. Now, I'm not sure if I have this upside down. I will say it doesn't really show it plugged in on the box, but on the standard lasgun guys, this piece is going that way on their backpacks. So I'm not sure if this is supposed to be this way, but he does come with a big giant telephone for yelling into, and he has that las pistol. Again, standard kind of equipment, a pocket sort of book thing, and then a canteen on one side. Again, you can see what I mean about the wrist guards. When they're a bit more up on the wrist, it looks a bit better where it looks like it's armored. But this guy looks pretty cool. I do like his look. These guys also have like what are supposed to be some sort of eyepiece thing as well, that some of them have above their heads on their berets. One of them is wearing them. The commander guy doesn't have it. Grenade launcher guy has the double goggles, and then for some reason this guy has one even though he has an eye patch, so I guess he puts it on his other side. But he does come with this banner, so I'm going to see he is pegged onto his peg base as well. I'm going to see if he can actually come to stand without it. But I would imagine not, because it is such a heavy, yeah, it's just going to flop all over the place. I don't think you could even get it into some sort of sweet spot for him to hold it. It is a bit of a downside that it is so heavy. It is a two-piece thing, so it does make it easier for getting it in and out of his hand. So it is a massive banner, and it has the Scions logo on it. It's not just sculpted. These pieces look like they're separate and placed on as well. And then on the back you have the giant Imperial Aquila, and it's just a really boss looking banner pole. What's interesting about the base is it also has an indent, so that even if you don't have this guy, I think, holding it, I think it should just sit in there easily enough. You just need to probably get into a decent enough spot so it doesn't flop over on you. You need to get it more neutral and it should stay in place. But for the guy itself, he's a fairly standard affair, all the same articulation as everything else. Backpack being separate. I do like the face sculpt on this one as well. For some reason, the head sculpts on all these guys, I know I'm kind of harking on about them, the head sculpts on these guys and whatever way they did skin tone looks so much better than some of the more recent Space Marine heads. And these guys look like they're alive, where some of the Space Marines earlier, or the new Space Marine commander heads, just look like they're wax dummies or something along those lines. But again, all the same articulation, same oversized las pistol and canteen and stuff. But it is nice that they did think this through and give you a base for this guy, because they knew straight going out the gate he would not be standing on his own accord with this banner pole, because it is such a big chunking piece. So I'm going to leave him there in the background. Hopefully he won't knock everything over, because he tends to be a little top heavy. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in one of those Krieg guardsmen, and because I used the sergeant or sergeant's pistol earlier, I shall bring in the sergeant for that squad. So these guys are essentially supposed to be the same scale, so I'm going to bring in tape measures out because I didn't do that yet. So the Krieg guardsmen were just around 4 inches. These guys are nearly 4 1/4. They are taller. They are a lot more chunky, as you can see. Even like by the legs, hip standard, these are nearly a figure and a half wider. So there is a good bit of difference in scale between the two. Like even for something from another series, this is Star Wars Imperial Gunner. You can see he looks quite small next to these guys. You can get him to stand. For a Predator figure from Joytoy, like the Predator is nearly the same height as these guys, so it makes no sense. Predator should be much bigger. And we'll bring in that Space Marine again, just so you can see the scale of a Space Marine next to one of these guys. Now this is one of the the earlier 1.0 Space Marines. I think they've upped the scale since that, so with the 2.0 bodies. So, and I think there might be even a 3.0 body on the way. There could be possibly even bigger Space Marines, because I know characters like Robert Gilman, the Primarch figure, is way bigger. He stands like up here somewhere on these guys. So there is a good bit of scaling differences between some of the newer figures and the earlier figures. What else will I bring in? Just because I have him here. Here is the Joker figure from the Batman, or Spin Masters Batman line. So you can see even the Joker is kind of slightly chunkier and more cartoon-esque in proportions compared to some of the other characters, but they do sort of work. And it is up to yourself whether you want these guys. If you're a fan of the Scions, I think they look really cool. Initially, I wasn't the biggest fan of them. I much prefer the older, they were called Imperial Stormtroopers, but they were like the very first ones that these guys are slightly based off, because the backpacks are very similar, and the beret thing kind of, well, except for the actual regular squad, the command squad has the berets, but the old Imperial Guard Stormtroopers, they were a really early plastic kit, which were like a monopose kit with a plug-in weapon, and then you had metal special weapons and metal heavy weapons and a metal sergeant to complete the squad. You had to buy them, the metal components, separate to the basic squad. You got a basic squad of 6 guys, and then you had to buy everything else separate to the other 4 to complete the squad, which was a bit of a shame, whereas these guys all come in one squad. But the design, they took designs of the car skins and the later Stormtroopers and kind of mashed them together with the earlier ones and kind of came up with these guys, which look really cool. But again, it's up to yourself whether you want these Astra Militarum guys. Unfortunately, as I said, they don't seem to sell them anywhere as a full set. You have to buy them individually, so it is kind of a pick and mix where you can get them at reasonable prices, because some places tend to be higher than others and where you can buy them, but it is what it is. So I'm going to wrap this up here now, because I've nearly got half an hour recording on these guys. So hopefully you stuck around for the whole video, and I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope, as I said, please feel free to like, comment and subscribe to my channel, and when I get around to it, I'll be doing the basic squad for these guys as well, and hope you enjoy that video and look out for that one at a future date. So there you go, guys. As always, I hope you enjoy this video, and I hope you give this a thumbs up and like and share. Cheers, guys.